Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us. All of you,
Down when the logo shows up for me.
all of you for joining us. Thank you so much. And I hope you all enjoyed that documentary as much as I did. I want to make sure that I introduce our panelists, but while I do that,
Maybe mine's just
you are all invited to
or
You're all invited to ask questions in the chat. Please make sure to drop them in there, and we will also be looking at them while we are kicking off this Q&A. But first, I'm going to go ahead and introduce some of the amazing people behind this documentary. First and foremost, Linda Hernandez, who is our protagonist. You saw her story throughout this documentary. She's a respected Philadelphia-based community leader, immigrant rights advocate, and holistic wellness practitioner. Through organizing with Juntos, she empowers Latinx, Latine immigrant families and fights for policies rooted in dignity, safety, and justice. Work featured in this award-winning documentary, Expanding Sanctuary. And she's also the founder of Amethyst Holistic Therapy and Shop, where she leads bilingual healing sessions and workshops that help bridge activism, wellness, and collective care. So Linda is here with us and she will be answering a few questions here in a moment. I also want to introduce Kristal Sotomayor, who is the award-winning non-binary Peruvian American filmmaker, journalist, and curator based in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. I hope you guys all noticed in the credits that she dedicated this to her mother, her immigrant mother. They are a Sotomayor Productions is a 2023 New York City documentary New Leader honoree and winner of the Philadelphia Filmmaker Award at the 2024 Black Star Film Festival for this film. So, Kristal, thank you so much for bringing us this documentary and bringing it to life. Uh, and finally, I want to introduce Katie Fleming, who is the Director of Public Education and Engagement at the Acacia Center for Justice, where she leads training and advocacy initiatives that equip community members, legal professionals, and partner organizations with the knowledge and tools to support immigrant communities and strengthen the immigration field as a whole. Katie also helps to lead Acacia's Witness for Justice initiative, which helps put volunteer court observers in immigration court to help protect due process. Katie is an attorney with over a decade of experience in immigration law. Welcome, all three of you. Welcome to our audience who is here. Reminder, please make sure to drop your questions in the chat for this movie. But first, my first question is going to go to Linda, of course, our protagonist. I wanted to learn a little bit more about your story because we know it doesn't end just because the documentary ended. And I would love to know what has happened from then to now. If you can fill in the gaps for us. I know it's been many years in between. The film was from 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so now we are in 2026. Fill us in because a lot has happened across the country. A lot has happened in the immigration space. How has all of that impacted you and where are you now?
Hi everyone, thanks. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. Thanks. But yeah, my whole experience itself was very amazing. First, because I was married that day, and then we were fighting this um parts with Juntos. So everything just came together. But of course, everything's been it changed a lot since then. Actually, I feel that we have to fight even harder. You know, the attacks that the Latin community been having lately. But well, the fight it doesn't end here. I'm still working with Juntos officially, helping the community to stay safe. We have a lot of allies who been helping us to keep the community safe. Of course, it's a lot of fear, but we still trying to work to, stay connected, safe. As you know, this is a sanctuary city, so we feel that we're not sure. Of course, we've been hearing a lot of things that maybe ICE is going to come, but we just don't want to fall into a panic because
Mm.
we don't know. I think one of the things they want is just to keep us in fear, of course, and of course, if you feel in fear, you might forget your rights and stuff. But I think at this moment, our mental health is very important.
I like that you bring up the point about we can't stay in fear, live in fear. What do you do also as a holistic practitioner? What do you do to combat that fear that you and I'm sure many others across the country are facing right now?
Yes. Actually, first is very important to keep our families mentally health and starting with my family, my daughters, and I'm going with my neighbors talking about it. If you ever need, there is a lot of organizations that offers therapy. I was doing those holistic circles with women, trying to, talk about our fears, how we can stay together, how we can of course know our rights and stuff like that. But last year I was doing like a lot of circles in juntos, just trying to bring all that stress out and do some kind of meditations. And I think if I mean, there is a lot of stuff that is going around. If we put the fear aside, there is a lot. My daughter does Mexican folklore, so I do feel if you focus on the things that are the good things are happening around, it will stay. It will help us to help ourselves with the mental health. Doing other things, of course, keep stay kind of focus on, okay, this is happening, this is real, but we're not going to feel in fear. And actually I'm going to start some other kind of circles this year, probably next month in juntos, just to bring all that stress out. This is very important, and it's a safe space, closed space, and we have a very safe protocol just trying to get into the office. So I think that's the main thing, having our mental health first. It will help us like physically being in a good health, and of course get out there and fight for our rights.
Definitely great advice. Focusing on your family, building space where you can talk through all of these things, and making sure to focus on the good that's happening in your world. We have a question also talking about family and your family specifically. The audience wants to know, was there ever a reunion with your mother at some point?
Oh yeah, thanks for ask. Yeah, she came the same year at the end of the year. I was I think the end of November, but it was a very nice reunion after so many years. So she got her visa, so now she can come back and forth. So she doesn't really like the weather, but she loves to come. Thanks for ask.
I sympathize with her because I'm also not enjoying this weather. Shifting gears a little bit, I want to ask Kristal now a few questions. Specifically, Kristal, I mean, you're the mastermind behind this. How did you get introduced to this story, to Linda, to this space? I mean, I know you're the daughter of immigrants, you have that background, but that doesn't always necessarily mean you're going to be following that storyline. So, what brought you into this space and what made you choose Linda's story?
Yeah. So thank you all so much for sharing with us and having this screening with us. It's really been such an incredible treat. I'm so glad to be sharing space with you all. So Expanding Sanctuary, it was a labor of love over 6 years. We were filming in 2018. I got connected with Juntos in 2017. And I reached out. I had known about Juntos for many years while I was in college. This is like my first film after having graduated from college. And, I was also looking for community because I just moved to Philly, into the city. I wanted to meet people. And I'd heard about Juntos. So I was really interested in their work and I wanted to make a film about them. And it took many months of communication, of talking with organizers. And then I was allowed to come in with a camera and film some of the early community meetings that were happening. And whenever I came into the meetings, I introduced myself. I handed out like my business cards after the meetings. I got, releases signed. I learned a lot through the process of making this film. And it was just so wonderful, being able to work with the community. And pretty organically, like Linda started coming to the Juntos meetings around the same time that I was filming. And at first, like, she was kind of just like watching. Like I have some early footage of Linda kind of just like sitting there watching, but like every other meeting I'd go to, she like started to speak up more and more and more. And then when they were going to have the protest that happened at City Hall, Linda was invited to speak at it. And I was talking to one of the Juntos organizers, and I was like, what if Linda was the protagonist of the film? What if I, approach her? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. So then I started talking to Linda. And Linda's amazing. Oh my gosh, like you can't tell. I mean, you can see in the film, but she has like these really cool tattoos. She has red hair. I have red hair. Really felt like we had a lot of the same energy. And yeah, I just started talking to Linda about what if the film was about you. And I'm very thankful that throughout the process, um, that you've been so open and receptive to it. Because I think it's different, to have someone film your life or a little moment and a little slice of your life. So thank you so much for letting me in.
Kristal, you talked about, yeah, being let into that space at the Juntos organization, other families being willing to be filmed as well. But this was all shot in 2018, 2017. A
Mhm.
lot has changed, as we mentioned earlier. What challenges do you think, or what would be different for you if you tried to do the same, if you tried to share the same story now and film the same story now?
Yeah, I mean, what's really funny is that every time I watch the film, I mean, I don't know that it's haha funny, but I would say I didn't think that this film would be relevant. Like, I didn't think that we'd be watching the footage and be like, this could happen yesterday. Um, but unfortunately, it is the reality, and we are living through a second presidency with Trump. Um, and truly, when we were editing the film, I was telling the editor, cut Trump's name. We will never have to talk about him ever again. He will never be president again. And here we are, you know, um, many years later. I think right now, if I were to try to make this film, I don't know that I'd be able to make a film, because there's been so many cuts to national arts funding, and a lot of the grants that we received in order to make the film were funded by the NEA and the NEH. And since their funding has all been cut, I don't know that we would be able to make this film, honestly. I'm
Mm,
very thankful for all the supporters. There were a lot of logos at the end of the film. It took a lot of people to make the film happen. But the political situation has made it so difficult to make films. I mean, I have other films that I'm working on. Like I have a film about las cafeteras and their activism, and it's been impossible to get money for it, to finish it. So I would say it's so much harder to get stories like this made, and in particular, seen. No one wants to show immigrant films right now, even at college campuses that I'm speaking to, trying to get screenings. There's a hesitancy there to show the film. And it wasn't like that even, you know, 2 years ago, before Trump was reelected. It wasn't like that. People were more receptive. There were budgets to do it. People weren't scared to talk about immigration in this climate. But now things have changed significantly.
no, I didn't realize there was also those additional layers of challenges that would exist now as far as the budgeting grants that would be available.
Mhm.
I do want to ask Katie a question while we're on the topic of the challenges that we're seeing now. Katie, specifically with your legal experience, I'm sure you've had clients similar with similar cases like Linda's. What would you say now is the most pressing issue for immigrant legal clients today?
Yeah, I don't want to sugarcoat it. I mean, the Trump administration has really changed the rules of the game. And it's so much harder for immigrants to live and work lawfully in the United States. And even in the pathways that do exist, there's new laws and policies being implemented every day that just makes it harder. Due process, fairness, justice, all of that is really at risk right now. We've seen, I know that folks probably watching this are very aware, but there's unconstitutional racial profiling, families being separated every day, people being sent to countries they've never even stepped foot in, that they don't even have any ties to, people being harmed by government agents and being forced to live in really inhumane conditions in one of the many ICE detention facilities across the country. So it's like there's not just like a few pressing issues. It's really tough out there right now for immigrants seeking legal status. It's really tough. It's a really dark moment, I would say.
Linda earlier gave us her holistic recommendations and tips about what we could do during these times. Katie, from your legal perspective, what message would you have for the community? What tips would you have for them?
Yeah, Linda also actually pointed to probably what my first tip would be, which is know your rights. Make sure you know what your rights are in every situation, at your home, at your work, in your car, on the street. There are lots of really good resources out there in many different languages that explain this. And that's like really like the first thing that you can do to protect yourself. I'll note that just because you know your rights doesn't mean they're going to be respected. But by knowing your rights and knowing when they're violated, it can really help you later on in maybe a court proceeding or in something where you're fighting when your rights were violated. So know your rights. That's really important. And then also having an emergency plan is really important for you and your family. The Ready Now app, which I think we can put in the chat, there's a link to it, or we'll send out an email after the screening with this information. But the Ready Now app is a really incredible tool that helps you put together a family emergency plan ahead of time. And then if the worst happens, if ICE is at your door, you press a button on your phone, really just a button, and it sends out your emergency plan to all the people that you've designated that to go out to. So plans for picking up kids from school, plans for talking to your boss, plans for checking in with an attorney, whatever it is that you want to have happen to your in the event that you have an encounter with ICE, it'll send out that plan and then it will remove the information from your phone so that the phone can't be searched. So I recommend that you read about that particular app and see if it's right for you. If not, contact your local organizations to see if they can help you put together an emergency plan that works well for you. And then I would say that the other piece of advice would be to at least get a consultation with a trusted immigration attorney in your community. If you have one, if you've had one many years ago, maybe it's time to probably get another one because things are changing and they're changing quickly, and it's important for you to know where you stand with your legal status. And aside from that, I think the tips that Linda gave were really important in terms of self-care, because we've all got to focus on ourselves and our families and our mental health and well-being to get through these tough times.
Katie, I want to go back to your first two tips that you gave about knowing your rights and the Ready Now app. It sounds like those would be important things for whether citizens and not non-citizens to be aware of and to know, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay. I also wanted to ask on the other end, Katie, what can people do today to get involved and to help support communities and organizations like Juntos or whatever organization they have in their community that they can help?
Yeah, so there are many ways to get involved right now, which is actually a beautiful thing. If you don't know your local immigration nonprofit or mutual aid groups, I would look those up in your area because chances are you do have someone fighting for immigrant rights in your area. There are lots of opportunities through these organizations like Court Watch, court accompaniment, food delivery, or food donations. Locally here in Sacramento, we have a brake light clinic. So there's lots of ways to volunteer and get involved. with your local community organizations. If you don't have one, or if you're, not in an area that you're even close to somewhere where you can volunteer in that regard, we also have a project called Witness for Justice at the Acacia Center for Justice where I work. And it's a national court watch project where we can even offer opportunities to do virtual observations. And the goal is to be present in court with folks going through the process, document what you're seeing, and report it back so we can be tracking due process violations and challenges that are happening every day in our immigration courts. So we'll also share some information about that opportunity. And then finally, probably one of the most important things you can do right now, if you have the ability, if you're in a position to donate to trusted immigration nonprofits. Funding is always an obstacle, like Kristal mentioned. Funders, I mean, people are wary of, if they're wary of showing a documentary, they're wary of donating also to immigration nonprofits at times. And so we really, that is something that helps sustain the field. It helps give people in your local area consultations, advice, and hopefully the representation that they need to win their case.
Great. Thank you, Katie. I appreciate that. And I hope those listening are going to take your advice and maybe join their local orgs across the country and also help the community. I want to make sure we don't miss out on some of the questions that we've already been getting in. And if you have more questions, feel free to drop them in, and our team will make sure to send them over and we'll try to get them answered. Kristal, I want to go back to you because, you filled such an important moment in Philadelphia history, and it was such a positive, inspiring ending to have that result. But what is the status now in that city?
Yeah, so the PARS contract, we were very lucky. It was successful. There have been other cities that have also ended similar contracts in their community, like in Chicago in 2018 as well. And to the best of our knowledge, it has not been renewed and it may not be happening right now. But I would say the big problem is that the federal government has expanded significantly the access that ICE has to federal databases. That's a big problem. They have access to everything from our tax records to potentially health records, like to a lot of things that at this point it's insidious. We don't really know exactly what they do have access to or don't have access to, but if the federal government has a hand in it, it's probably in some way being filtered to ICE, unfortunately, right now. So it's really important to kind of keep in mind that and policies that can potentially be changed for that too. But something big that's happening right now in Philadelphia, our mayor, um, Cheryl Parker, has not been in, has not said one way or another whether she supports sanctuary city policies. And we really need her to, protect immigrants. She's been really silent on this issue. She's been really silent on a lot of issues around immigration. And I just hope that she does the right thing, and upholds our sanctuary city policies. Um, if not, I know a lot of organizations are probably ready to protest her because, she's in a lot of things at this point. But yeah. She needs to stand up for immigrant communities. She hasn't done that in the past. She needs to start doing that now. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Kristal. And I'm going to shift gears a little bit because we got some interesting questions from an aspiring filmmaker as well. Kristal, I think you mentioned earlier that this documentary you started right after school, right? After graduating?
Yes.
And it already has several awards. And so the questions from this aspiring documentarian is that they noticed, Kristal, that you specifically filled multiple roles in the production of this film. They'd love to know a little bit more about your experience being director, writer, director of photography, and what challenges did you face while you took up all of those roles?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. I think one of the big learning lessons for me making this film was that I need a team. I can't do everything. Part of the reason why it took us so long to make the film, 6 years, is because I was also learning. and we didn't have funding. And then, kind of as funding came in, I would be able to like upgrade things like, oh, now we have an editor, now we have a sound designer. Basically every single time we brought someone in on the team, it's because we were lucky enough to get funding. Moving forward, you know, I do not want to do all the roles. It's a lot. I mean, I think when you're starting out, it's necessary. But moving forward, I definitely learned to be a director, be a producer, can even write the film, but don't do anything else beyond that because it ends up being a lot. Um,
Sounds like learning when to ask for help is important.
exactly. And the people that you need to bring onto the team to fill in the gaps in your own knowledge too is super important.
I don't think I shared this earlier, but Sotomayor Productions is also a queer Latinx production company, correct?
Yes.
Let us know, what has that been like? I mean, that's quite a mantle to carry. You're definitely breaking barriers, I would imagine, in the filmmaking industry. Walk us through what that has been like for you.
So this is actually the third year for Sotomayor Productions. Started just recently, so very excited about that, and very grateful for your support through it all. I mean, it's been wonderful. And now we have like two team members, Maya, who's incredible, who helps, set all of this up, and Tyler, who is answering everyone in the chat. Thank you so much, Tyler. I would say it's been kind of difficult to carve your own path in a production company, especially because film is such as many fields, a very white, cis male dominated field. And so when you're trying to tell stories that aren't the norm, they're very hard to be seen. I mean, a film like this, you're never going to see on Netflix. You're never going to see it on HBO Max. It will never, unfortunately, it will never be on any of these like major platforms. And that's why it's all the more important to be telling these stories. So it's been great. But it's also been kind of a challenge.
Well, going back to those challenges that you mentioned earlier, too, specifically about funding, one of the questions was asking for any tips you may have for others who are trying to follow your lead and also tell these stories and share them.
Mhm. I think funding is the problem that everybody has, whether you have like an Academy Award or you don't. I've talked to like so many filmmakers, and everyone's like, my number one problem is funding, especially if you're a filmmaker of color, and especially if you're like queer or trans. So I would say, um, kind of being realistic on like how much you will actually be able to fundraise for the film, and still going for your vision, like knowing how much you need honestly to accomplish your vision has been something that's been helpful for me. Like the way that I fund films is through grants mostly, because we also have fiscal sponsorship as part of the production company. So that's been really helpful. But I would say, because of the state of the world and the fact that streamers aren't acquiring films, there isn't funding through, you know, any sort of grants. Funding is that much more competitive because a lot of the funds have shriveled up because of the closure of NEA and NEH. Um, I would say kind of crowdfunding is the way that everyone has been talking to me, is if you want to make your next film, you have to crowdfund, you need to fundraise, you need to build an audience. Um, yeah, unfortunately, that's just the reality that we're in right now, in the landscape for film.
Yeah, funding definitely seems to be an issue all around for all the spaces that are trying to do good work these days. We only have a few minutes left. If you'd like to drop a question in, we'll be happy to take it. But I do want to start wrapping us up a little bit, and I want to go around, starting with you, Linda. And have you share any final thoughts, any final suggestions or tips you have for the audience? And then we'll keep going around.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you liked the movie. I know it was so emotional. Every time that I watch it, I start crying. But it's just like it was a really good moment between both experiences, getting married and win the protest. So it was a good thing. Um, if you ever get a chance to get involved with organizations, please do it. We really need your support in any way, even like financial. There is so many things to do, as Katie said, but thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you for sharing your story. And it's so lovely to see your story, but I'm sure it wasn't easy to share so much of yourself in that way and put yourself in such a vulnerable position to open up to an audience. So thank you so much for that. Kristal, I'd love to have a final message from you before we wrap up as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really important right now is that we support our community and we help our community. Unfortunately, at a federal level, there's it's challenging to make change, but I think that expanding sanctuary really shows what you can do if you really fight for your neighbors, for the people that you love. And I do think that there's 100% a way that we can figure this out en comunidad. It's not happening in the White House. Um, and thank you all so much for coming. And we'll be sharing links to follow Sotomayor Productions in the chat. And if you're based in Philadelphia and you want to support Juntos, please support Juntos. They're amazing. And you can follow them also and learn about like protests and other events that are happening in the community.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Kristal. Katie, any final thoughts or message you'd like to share?
Just that I also cry, Linda, every time I watch it. This is the second time I've watched your movie, and it's emotional in all the best ways. It's very beautiful. And I'm also really touched that you were able to reunite with your mom. That's huge. Kristal, this is a beautiful film. Thank you so much for inviting Acacia and for doing this along with us. And to everybody watching, and just again, connect with your local community organizations. There are many ways to get involved. And tell somebody that you know, hey, do you know your rights? Let's get everybody informed, because that's how we can be strong together during this moment.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, to all of our panelists. Thank you to all of our viewers. Please make sure to follow Acacia Center for Justice online to learn more about our work. Also, check out Sotomayor Productions and their work. Make sure to follow them. We'll also make sure to send links to you guys to know your rights in case you're a little behind on that, and to share with others in your community and your family and your circle. So thank you again for all of our viewers and our panelists tonight.